the norm.
Did you also know that he owned a saltwater fish distributorship that was up North Lee Highway? What is that road right there? There's a lot of wrecks right there.
Barnell?
There's that little store.
Don't tell me. Tasso and Fish Creek
there
Market.
you go.
Yeah.
Fish Creek Market.
Yeah.
Right across Tasso, there's a big building there, and that used to be Mark Clark's
Is that right?
saltwater fish distributing. The funny thing about that is when we built our final house that we're in right now, I had this great idea that you would look through the front window, look through a saltwater aquarium, and then on the other side is the Tennessee River, Wolf Teever. I had it all drawn up, and I called Mark and I said, I'm having a hard time deciding between, saltwater would be prettier, but I mean, we're in the Tennessee, maybe I ought to do fresh. And he said, I'll give you my advice. Don't do fish at all. He said it is a ton of work. It'll be a disaster. Just don't do it. I did not do what he said, and about we hadn't opened.
No.
It was last summer. It was last June. I had a 200-gallon saltwater. We were on Parksville Lake, and I'm going to call from my alarm company because it had busted. 200 gallons of water went out on hardwood floors. Did $60,000 worth of damage.
60,000.
Yeah, underneath was the man cave, right?
Yeah.
So all that electronics was blown. And then once you get salt water on hardwood, I mean, you just have to replace the hardwood.
Now the electronics, that would have been, your insurance has to have another rider for that, right?
They didn't.
Maybe it already had it on there. Some will exclude electronics.
Really?
Yeah, and you think, well, what else is there if it's
Right.
not electronics?
Yeah.
Are you related to Hal Dixon?
Son-in-law,
Yeah, let's see. Now you married
Vanessa, his youngest.
his youngest, and I went to school with Paige. Was it Paige? No, the one that married
You know about
Smith.
Candace?
Candace. Yeah, Candace.
That one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not Smith. Married Ramsey, Chuck Ramsey. Well, first she's been married twice. She married Scott Dale while she was at Lee. And then they got a divorce, 20 years ago. Maybe even longer than that. And then she remarried Chuck Ramsey.
Boy, Hal was a neat guy, wasn't he?
He really
What was that, 3 weeks ago he died, or 4?
Yeah, he died right before the New Year's.
He was a really good businessman and everything, wasn't he?
You know, for me, all my friends that talk about their in-laws and sort of it's hard to live up to what an in-law would require. And I married his youngest daughter, so you figure
Yeah.
he was the most there was never a time in 25 years of marriage where he was ever judgmental towards me. I mean, ever. He was amazing.
What was he like at Thanksgiving? Was he just calm like he is?
He was very calm. He was formal. He not formal in sort of a abrupt way, but formal in a calm way.
Aristocratic, sort of?
Very dignified. He also lived his values. I mean, like he would never say we should pray or we should live this way, but he just did it. And so, if I went by his office, let's say I was going to take him something for taxes or something, he would always say, we need to pray. Let's pray. And I have seen him do that with people like business people who, I mean, like I knew were not church-going people, and they'd come visit him, and he would say, you seem like a good person. Let me pray for you.
Wow.
Yeah. And one time he was asking me about working in the hospital, and he said, wow, I bet you get to see people in like the worst of the worst situations. Like, do you ever pray with them? And I said, well, I do if they ask me. And instead of him telling me like you need to, he said, it's hard for me when somebody comes in that I know is not a churchgoer, but I feel that tug, and you just should always answer that tug. And so I'd pray for him. And so the next day I went to the ER. I'll never forget it. And there was a guy who came in for a cough, maybe coughing up a little blood or something, and he had a mass on his chest X-ray. And it was pretty obvious he was a smoker. And I went in to tell him that he probably had lung cancer, but we needed to admit him for a biopsy and that sort of thing. And he started crying, and I was like, you know what? I need to pray for you. And he was like, yeah, okay, well, So anyway, that's a very
What happened to that guy?
That's the negative of emergency medicine, is that you kind of follow them for a little while, but you don't set appointments or anything like that. So I don't think it's good.
But you don't really know the whole outcome of how it lays.
Yeah, emergency medicine is there's a lot of great things about it. You go home. When you go home, you're never on call. You have to be a little bit good at a lot of things, but you don't really get to follow people. I had to make an effort, and I would do that occasionally, write down people's phone number and ask them, hey, can I call you in 3 months and see how this is going, or something like that. But for the most part, you kind of walk out the door and flush away the bad memories and go about your life.
Yeah, because you're just sort of doing like a MASH unit in a sense. Is that, more in depth, but...
Yeah.
Did you ever watch MASH growing up?
I did. Yeah, my parents, I remember them having that on for sure.
Do you think that inspired you to be a doctor?
No, what inspired me was I was working for my dad, who still does own Ocoee Outdoors up here. And I was like picking up cigarette butts at Grumpy's in the parking lot.
So y'all own Grumpy's?
Yeah. Making sandwiches, all that cleaning life jackets. And I was visiting my grandfather, who at that time was administrator of the hospital, and I was complaining about the smell of my fingers and cigarettes, which, by the way, is a great way. If you don't want your child or your grandchild or whatever to smoke, send them over to Hardee's or something, pick the cigarette butts off. They'll never smoke. So I was just complaining to him about it, and my grandfather said, well, I'll put you to work as an orderly in the hospital. And I said, well, I'm only 14. And he said, they don't know. I'm the administrator. So I started working there right about the time I turned 15. And I started working. Do you know Jerry Devane?
Yeah.
So I was working, for him, with him in the emergency room, and that's what got me into it for sure.
He's the guy that saw Elvis, right?
He's the guy who did CPR on Elvis. There's 2 doctors in Cleveland that did CPR.
How would you like to live your whole life, be as successful as him, and so smart, and you're known for that?
Right.
That's true.
Right.
Gosh, if I hadn't have done that, I'd have...
It's funny. It's the second time I've heard that about him.
Yeah, he's the godfather of emergency medicine. Really, I was about to say in Cleveland, but really Southeast Tennessee. He's amazing.
Now, he's a calm guy, isn't he?
He is. You have to, I really think, to be a good emergency medicine physician, you have to be calm in the midst of chaos. Because if you fall into that, let's say a parent brings in a sick kid and they're screaming, and you have to be able to calm the situation and sort of go by an algorithm to calm things down.
Yeah, you don't want to go, oh my goodness.
You do not. You do not.
Do you think that emergency room stuff, some of it's not really an emergency? Do people think it's more of an emergency than it is?
So there's really 2.
I laugh because I'm an old emergency room nurse.
Yeah.
So
in Memphis,
in the hospital where Elvis died, actually, or was pronounced dead, actually. Yeah.
Sure, there are people who use the emergency department as primary care, but I also think that our system is so broken that they don't have a lot of choice. They just really don't. They don't have a lot of choice. You don't have insurance, and you develop pneumonia. What are you
going to do?
Yeah. And a lot of times people don't know, right? Like people say, somebody. I had an argument with somebody about a year ago, and they said something, and I said, well, people come in for headaches. Well, headache is the number one sign for a ruptured cerebral aneurysm. So you don't know, if you have an unusual headache that's associated with tingling in a hand, well, that could be a really big deal, or it could be a migraine headache. I mean, so I guess what I would say is there's absolutely emergency department abuse, but it's much more complex than people like to think, that just people are just over abusing it.
Yeah, they're not going to take us a Thursday night and go sit in the emergency room for lack of anything else to do.
Right.
So they think they need to be there.
Yeah. And people don't realize that the community doesn't realize that people who use the ER as their primary care, they're still getting billed, and they're still getting turned over to collection agencies, and it'll ruin their life. I mean, really and truly, financially, it'll ruin them.
I've got some people that work with me that I know that they just have to send in so much every month to. It's really a sad situation. Where was you emergency room at?
In Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh, are you from Memphis?
Yes, I was raised there. I lived there for 30 years, so I consider that home still. But I was at Baptist Memorial Hospital. It was huge. It's gone now, but it was.
What part of
a good
Memphis?
time. Did I live?
Yeah.
Well, we always lived in the suburbs. So I lived in Cordova, and then I lived in Lakeland.
That's like going south, right?
No, it's going northeast.
Is that close to Moscow, Tennessee? You ever heard of Moscow?
Yeah. It's not really close though.
Did you ever go watch the peacocks come down the elevator?
No, the ducks.
Ducks, yeah.
Yeah, at the Peabody.
At the Peabody, yeah.
Yeah.
I always get that.
Yeah.
It's like that'd be peacocks instead of pea.
Did I dream that you got engaged at the Peabody?
No, we got engaged at the first time at Spaghetti Warehouse.
I don't know, man. Oh, I used to love that place.
Yeah,
The
Spaghetti
Spaghetti
Warehouse.
So
Warehouse.
Vanessa's, my wife's apartment was a block from there. Remember,
Okay.
What was the name of those apartments that were up on the bluff? Something Bluff.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah.
all right, first time at
It's been
Spaghetti
a long
Warehouse.
time. Yeah, first time at Spaghetti Warehouse. And then I can't remember the second time where that was. It's probably.
We got engaged.
I'm
at
sure he
Peabody.
remembers.
For some reason, I thought that you and I talked about that
You know, a
don't
lot of
think
people
so.
got engaged at the Peabody, didn't
on the rooftop.
Oh, yeah. No, I know it wasn't there.
they? Do they still have that? The ducks still come down there, reckon?
I think they do.
I think so.
Because it's still, a tourist attraction. People would come, they'd want to go there, they want to go to the Rendezvous, they want to go to Graceland.
Yeah, Graceland, I've been there. And to the famous barbecue place there.
What do
The
you think about
Rendezvous, yeah.
Graceland?
It was okay. I wish they'd let you walk around.
Yeah.
They have everything roped off, but I'd like to just.
I thought it was so disappointing.
It's-
And I mean, I love music.
Yeah.
I guess I'm more of a Beatles fan than an Elvis fan, but I was so disappointed.
That's what bothered Elvis. People were starting to listen to the Beatles, right?
Right. Yeah.
He just lost he started to lose. He thought he was losing relevance.
Right. Yeah.
So now this thing you are involved in, Charis, where do you get that name?
Oh, well, it means grace in the Greek language. And when Jim and I started Charis back in 2013, we're believers, and so God has just extended so much grace to us through our marriage and our families and our lives in general. So when we thought about naming it, we thought, well, we want to extend grace to these people that are in need. So I just kind of Googled grace in different languages, and it was pretty, and it sounded pretty.
Yeah.
So,
And it's good for a slogan. We caris about you.
well, no.
Have you ever heard that?
Well, a lot of
You ever
people
thought of
say
that? We care
think
about
it's
you.
also carries like
Like dental
like the
caries.
name Carrie. No, like KAR apostrophe S. Like it's
Oh,
been,
caris.
Somebody's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Personal pronoun, is that what you call it?
right. Yeah.
That's
That's
not.
good.
Is that right?
Possessive
right.
pronoun.
Yeah. Personal pronoun.
Possessive noun.
Yeah, I
I
think it's
don't know.
possessive noun.
Yeah.
So now charis if I've got a toothache and I can't go to the dentist, that's a bigger problem than a headache at the time, isn't it?
Right.
I mean, you think about that. That is miserable.
It's a big deal. Yeah.
Years ago, I was at the Waffle House, and this waitress that always waited on us was there on a Friday night, and she was 25. You know, she should have been out, doing what, on dates or something. But she came over to our table and waited on us, and her jaw was out like this. She couldn't hardly talk. And I thought, how is this girl at her age with all the, trying to, I mean, she was just so vulnerable there.
Right.
And there's no way that she would have been there if she could have gotten that taken care of.
Oh yeah. Well, there's so many people that dental is a huge need. It still is in the community, and
I
has
almost think
been for
it's
a long
more of an
time.
emergency need.
well, it is for sure. I think Madison will tell you that
Yeah, they show
a
up.
ton of people came to the emergency room and with abscesses and pain.
What do you do about that? Is that still medical?
Yeah, so most emergency room physicians would just put them on an antibiotic and some pain medicine. Some will occasionally do a dental block and actually open the abscess. I sort of like to,
What does that do when you open it?
just like popping a pimple, right? Relieves the pressure.
Gets
gives
the pus out of there.
and, yeah.
The stuff that makes you hurt.
If you're able, I mean, I would not open ones that were, Jim would be, I wish he was here, he'd be freaking out. You do what?
But if you got to,
But if you can look in there and feel, and you can tell, like, wow, this is a large pocket of pus, and it's gonna really relieve some pain if I can get that out of there. And sure enough, I mean, they hug you on their way out after you did it.
because it's pretty immediate when it comes to dental stuff. I mean, as far as feeling better.
Yeah, it is.
Where do people go that we always talk about health care and emergency rooms, but then when people need dental care, we don't care. It's like we don't care if they get assistance.
Well,
But that's what you're
That's what we're
doing.
doing. Yeah. Yeah. So-
Why the dental area? Because you came from an emergency room.
Right. Well, I mean, that was a long time
Was your husband
ago.
a dentist?
Yeah, my husband Jim is a dentist. He's our dentist at
Oh.
Karis. Yeah. So, I mean, it was just a need that was brought to our attention by Reba Terry, the former executive director of the Caring Place. And you don't know Reba?
You should.
You got to talk to
Should.
Reba. She's very powerful. Really, she is an amazing woman. But she brought it to Jim's attention, came to his office. He was in private practice with Ernie Euler,
Yeah.
and they did extraction clinics once a year for free, and people would line up.
I
all night
remember
long.
that.
So she came and said, hey, we've got this need. There was a need survey that was done by the United Way and Caring Place, and it showed adult dental care is the #1 unmet need in the county. And so she was like, hey, can you help me do something about this? And I guess it just resonated with Jim, and so he brought it home to me. So I was a stay-at-home mom at the time, and so he brought it home to me, and we just started working, trying to get something going, and started out small, just doing extraction-only clinics, and he would volunteer, and then that just wasn't doing it, of course, because the need was so great. So the United Way and then met with us and asked us to do it full-time, and we thought really hard and prayed a lot and decided to take that leap of faith. And so he left private practice and started with Karis full-time in 2015. And then I was, of course, full-time as well.
So this is a non-paying. Do these customers pay or patients pay?
They do pay. They do. They have to qualify first. So they have to prove that they're 150% or below the poverty level, and they have to bring insurance cards. We see if they have dental insurance, or medical insurance now, and then they pay a small fee before they're even scheduled. So they're paying ahead for services, but it's in general it's $25 to come and to do most of our procedures and
Like fill a cavity or something?
all the cleanings and fillings, extractions.
Well, this is not as lucrative money-wise as he would be in private practice, right?
Right. That's very true.
So does he have a real deep desire to help people?
That's exactly why we did it, because, I mean, he's 58 now, so, I mean, you know, he's like, this is towards the end of my career. This is a good way to give back, and it's also just very fulfilling as well, because all of our patients are really grateful, and
Oh, I bet, yeah.
yeah.
So who says they have to be below the poverty? How do you calculate that?
Well, the board of directors says, so we set up, you know, eligibility criteria from the beginning, and
Can you change that criteria?
we can. Like originally it was 100% of the poverty level, and we were just seeing how that went, and we were missing a lot of the working poor, because they're about, you know, really like 200, 250 or less of the poverty level. So just even upping it to 150 is not really getting everybody we would like to, but we have one dentist, and that's Jim, and we can't really do much more. We're at full capacity right now.
So you're seeing about how many patients a day for teeth?
A day?
Yeah.
So anywhere from like 12 to 18 probably a day.
Not as much as a normal dentist would see, right?
Yeah. Yes.
What
we
about
are.
teeth cleaning?
Yes, that too. Yeah, we have a
So you have-
hygienist.
Just one?
Yes. Well, one full-time and then one part-time.
So she'll see the same 12? Or is that different?
No. So a lot of our patients have never even been to have their teeth cleaned ever. So that takes longer. They usually have to have multiple appointments. Yeah. So, but we produce, like, we track, like if Jim were in a private dental office, how much we produced or what value did we give back last year, and it was over $1.3 million in dentistry, which is
That he
a
gave
lot.
away, or that your office gave away that you would have got.
Right. That's a lot for one dentist. So we're very busy.
Let me tell you about Capstar Bank. They're located in Nashville, Hendersonville, Gallatin, Athens, Madisonville, Sweetwater, Etowah, and in Cleveland at 950 25th Street and 3855 North Ocoee Street. I've used them. I like them. Give them a try. They're no problem. So are now you're adding medical? Is that the idea?
Yeah, so,
August.
gosh, probably about 3-4 years ago, Jim's like, wouldn't it be great if we could add medical? And I was like, you're crazy. So that's generally how it happens in our marriage. He comes up with this idea, just like Karis Dental. And I'm like, no, we don't need to do that. And then God changes our minds, or changes my mind, and I get on board. And that's kind of how it happened with medical, because a lot of our patients are just majorly medically compromised, and their blood pressure is way out of control, their diabetes is way out of control, and they're not going anywhere to get that addressed. And so they end up in the ER, and they end up hospitalized. And so anyway, it just kind of became a dream, and just a thought really, and a dream. And then the United Way had the same thought. And then I think at the same time, unbeknownst to us, God was having to talk with Madison about that as well.
Did you quit the emergency room at the hospital?
Did. Not at this time. 3 years ago when this happened, what Kelly was referring to is I was on a mission trip and just had a really sort of profound experience. I don't know what your belief system is like, but for somebody who, I didn't grow up with the strongest, church-going family or anything like that. So I make the joke, although I mean it, that I sort of got slapped on this mission trip and just knew that
Do
something.
you remember
something-
was it a moment or
It
like
was
a
a moment.
week?
No, I was in a round group with some believers that were on this mission trip, and there was this one lady she was a little bit rough around the edges, I guess I would say, and she started talking about how she just needed to get out of God's way. And something about the way she said that, I just thought, you know, it's one thing to say, I'm going to do what God wants me to, but it's quite another, and I felt that, like I'm getting in the way of God's plan. I need to step out of his way and walk in his path. And so initially I was medical director of the emergency room at that time. And so I literally walked from that circle, walked with my wife to our, I say room, it was sort of a little compound we were staying at in on the Nicaraguan border. And I said, I'm quitting medical director. She was just shocked and said, well, you know, she's very supportive. So we talked about it, and she said, whatever you feel like you need to do. I got back from Central America. 2 days later, one of my running buddies, who was the CEO of the United Way at that time, Matt Ryerson, called me and asked me to lunch. And we were sitting there, and he said, we feel like at the United Way that there's all these uninsured people who are living in poverty that, you know, they end up in the emergency room and nobody's taking care of them. And I was like, yeah, you're exactly right. I see it every day, you know, diabetics having strokes or people with high blood pressure having heart attacks because they're not getting any preventative medical care whatsoever. And so he said, will you serve on a committee and we can sort of look at this and determine, do we need this clinic? And if we do, what doctor's going to work on it? How are we going to do that? And I just looked at him and with tears in my eyes said, no, I will not serve on your committee. I want to be the doctor. Like, this is what I'm being told to do. So I felt really, really strong about it. And then we started kind of collecting information, Matt Ryerson and I did. And he said, I got this idea, you know, there's this dental clinic. And I knew about Caris from the emergency room because I had been referring some patients to them. And he said, you know, the people at Caris have talked about starting a medical clinic. Would you like to meet with them? I was like, sure. And I instantly knew. I mean, talking to Kelly and Jim, it was just like, okay, this is it for sure. And so sort of in that same vein, I think we all had the United Way especially had some pretty big plans on how this was going to take place. And so there were there's a lot of work that went into setting up this clinic. And then Matt Ryerson left and went to Knoxville, to the United Way there in Knoxville. And we were sort of left with, we've been working on this for 2.5 years. What are we going to do? And so the United Way was very supportive. And we ended up renting the house next door. And the owners of that facility, you need to come see it. It's amazing. They renovated that into a medical clinic. And it's not, you know, a lot of people say, well, if you're providing indigent medical care, are you in the basement of a church or are you in the basement of a health department? I'm like, no, it is one of the nicer doctor's offices in town. I mean, it's beautiful. Really, really.
Was that Clay? Was that Carl Collins' building?
I think it might have been at one time.
Yeah.
And I just say that because sometimes I get junk mail for him.
Yeah.
At our
Carl
building.
Collins' building at one time.
Okay.
But then now y'all have redone the back parking lot, I think.
That is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the medical side. The dental is
How are you going to go from this big emergency room doctor and this big private practice dentist to doing work, patients that can just barely pay $25 or $50? I mean, mathematically, it doesn't add up, right?
Well, there's two answers to that. I mean, I think for both of us, and Jim, if he was here as well, that's trust and faith, right? Like you got to know when. I mean, I think God probably knocks on Kelly's heart and he smacks me across the face. But you know, when you get told, you better do what you're told. And so, you know, I feel very strongly that is the path that we were supposed to go in. In regards to the second part of the question, the $25 that we charge really has nothing to do with covering their care. Obviously, it can't. And I'll let Kelly address the dental side because they have everything you would expect in a private doctor's office. But we have everything. We do blood work, we do EKGs, we have a radiology suite, we do X-rays in, and we can talk about this more later, but we have a pharmacy in-house. Not non-narcotics, and we give patients their medications, and so that $25 is not about covering that care. It's about the patient having ownership in the process. If you just give out free care, what we found in our research is that people were more likely to abuse that care. But if they have ownership in the process, then they're more likely to benefit from it.
So that's not really the income.
No.
So does insurance pay for the remainder?
We don't see anybody that has insurance. That's part of the criteria. So the way that we survive, I can see
mathematically.
So we're a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And so our largest.
But you have to. It still cover the cost.
Right. So our largest giver is the United Way, but we have many other givers. We have now that. We have private givers, George R. Johnson Foundation, the Community Foundation.
The First Baptist Church. I think more since we've opened medical, we've gained more private donors, and we're going to need to rely more and more on private donors as the time goes on because we're expanding, obviously, services, so that's costing more. And
Is there another place in another city like this that has a thing like this?
Oh yeah, all across Tennessee. But Bradley County doesn't have anything like this, so that's why.
Now, Ocoee Regional Health Corporation, they do what?
So they're an FQHC, which is a federally qualified health center. So
And they take insurance.
They take insurance. They also see uninsured patients on a sliding fee scale too. So, but they're federally funded and they take insurance. So that's how
They do a
different.
lot of help people on that stuff also, right?
They do.
Yeah.
And there's other places too.
What about the
Like
Samaritan?
Kaful.
What about that thing called the Samaritan
That
thing?
was every Thursday night.
Yeah.
Yeah, the free clinic every Thursday night, and that's all there really was for the longest time. But I'm not sure with COVID if they're still able to get volunteers to staff that. But
There's really no way that we can all cover these people that don't have medical or dental care. It's just really pitiful for our country. Everybody goes to church twice on Sundays. They go on Wednesday nights, but yet they won't help these people that don't have the money for medical. And the excuse is, oh well, they don't help themselves, and that's not always the case, right?
no.
It's rarely the case.
Right.
I can tell you personally, and I will completely admit that when I was in the emergency room, you get a little bit tainted. You think people are abusing the
Jaded
process.
or
They don't. Oh, they're non-compliant. I have been completely blown away. Now we've only been open since August, but my patients listen to me. They do what I ask. They take their medications. They are extremely grateful.
inquisitive.
They are. I had a patient last week who I said, I know you've probably heard this a million times before, but I like to focus at least one on every visit. Let's try to improve one thing. And so I said, I'm sure you've heard this a million times, but I need to help you to stop smoking. And he looked at me and he said, I've never been told that before because I've never seen a doctor.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa. And I said, well, are you willing? I have a plan. I'm going to have it written out. And I can kind of take you week by week. And he said, well, yeah, of course. I'm willing. Yeah, let's do it.
You're very passionate about this.
Yeah, I am. Some of that, I think, is the calling that I've felt. But some of it is what I've seen, right? 20 years in this emergency department, 25 total in emergency medicine. And the system's broken, and people, they want help, they need help, and we in our system, oftentimes what happens is they don't get help until they're so ill that they get admitted for that process. They need surgery, or they are in the intensive care unit with their diabetes out of control. Well, then they get disability, and then they have insurance. But wouldn't it be nice to take that same diabetic, give them insulin, work with them and talk to them about their diet, get their blood sugar under control before it causes kidney failure, for example, and prevent them from going to the hospital, or maybe even get them back to work because they feel so much better. And that's really the goal. Kelly and I joke about the fact that I tell some of my patients that the goal is unlike any other medical clinic, because I'm going to get you well enough to where you won't qualify to see me anymore, right? So I will get you well enough to where you can go work, where you might be able to get some insurance, and then I can't see you anymore. But then they can, go see a regular medical doctor.
It's really sad. I don't know what the answer is. Do you?
I don't.
We can't. That's too big for us.
It's a really big problem in our country, but I think something that Reba said to me a long time ago is that it is a huge problem, but that doesn't stop you from just trying to fix it for a few people here in Bradley County.
Maybe that's not our problem. Maybe this is our problem, just helping the ones we can and making it available. And
Right. You can't do everything for everybody, but you can do what you can for a few, and it makes a huge difference. Even dental wise, just if you think about not having teeth and not being able to smile and for an interview versus being able to do that, you're much more likely to get hired. So
I don't know of many people that don't have health care that wouldn't pay for insurance if they knew how to get it.
Right.
That's another thing.
So expensive.
Jumping through the hoops
I
to
mean,
get it.
is there any insurance that's relatively cheap? We had the Obamacare. Is that still in effect?
It is.
It is. Yeah.
So that was, it might not have been the best, but it was something, right?
Right.
Yeah.
And
Before
it's still
that-
around, but I think a lot of it is the learning curve of how do you apply and then follow up and jump through all the hoops. It's a lot of paperwork.
Boy.
And we are trying to get to the point where we can assist patients that might qualify. To assist them
Right.
in applying and helping them follow up. We're not social workers. We'd like to be able to hire one there, but that is part of what we would like to be able to do is assist people in getting health insurance.
It's a shame to say, well, here's an aspirin, that'll make you feel better, but this will make you well. All you can afford is this one. Go to church on Sunday. It just doesn't make sense, does it?
Right.
I think we should have universal health care for everybody. And at a minimum, if you're under 20 years old, you should. Can you imagine if you were a 16-year-old and you needed medical care and you couldn't get it? It could, like you said earlier, it would ruin your whole life.
Yeah.
The whole trajectory of your life.
Yeah, you may not realize that Bradley County has double the bankruptcy rate of the national average. So the national average is 3.3 households per 1,000 go bankrupt in the United States.
In a year.
In a year. And in Bradley County, it's 6.6. And the number one cause of bankruptcy? Medical
Just
bills.
medical.
Yeah, so.
I remember years ago, I can't remember where I was at, but somebody was going to make somebody a home loan or something, and they said, oh, they only went bankrupt because of medical. We won't count that. It's almost like they don't even count it because it was due to medical. Because you can't pay. My son had to go to emergency room, and I've got insurance. I'm still getting bills. It's like $6,000.
Yeah.
And I don't even, and one of them was the EKG. It was $1,200, and you're doing it for what? It was $1,200 for EKG.
Yeah, it's just included in your $25 fee. And I will tell you also, that the machine that we have is amazing. I was joking with Kelly about it yesterday. We were touring a family And we have an amazing EKG machine. We really do have some state-of-the-art equipment.
What's the future of Karis? Is it going to be? I mean, how do you now? Here's what I'm a logistics guy. I always think about the logistics. I'm seeing Carl Collins' office there, and I've been there. I know about how the rooms are laid out, which is probably different now. But you're walking through there. Your husband's walking through there. You're walking through there, and you got a hygienist. Aren't y'all crowded?
Well, we're in 2 different buildings. So,
One's right, the house
Right.
you're referring to.
right, so the medical clinic is in the house, and then we are in, it was an office building or a data collection building or something like that, like right next door. So we're on the corner of 2nd and Broad, like right next to Capital Tire.
Yeah.
And then the medical clinic is set back a little bit right next to us.
Next to that radio station.
Yes.
Right.
What's
It's
the
not
deal
there.
with that?
It's not there anymore.
What's the deal with that?
Yeah,
We're
I don't
gone.
know. It's not. It's gone
Oh,
now.
some kind of biscuit place now.
No, that's a
Further
block
down?
up. That's
Yeah,
a block
it's one
up.
up,
Yeah.
Well, the radio
But-
station didn't last long, did it?
It
The
didn't.
paint didn't dry hardly on the sign.
I won't say anything.
They like to park in front of our building.
Oh, did it?
Yeah.
I'll say it.
See, you are across from Scott Canovis's office, right?
Yeah, kinda
sort of
catty
catty
corner.
corner.
Yeah.
So that's the only drawback, right?
Right. Yeah, we just opened a medical, so we're not crowded yet there. We're a little crowded at dental, and we don't know what's in store. We would like to be able to expand one of these days and be under one roof, and
How many square feet would that take?
we would like to have at least 10,000.
Yeah, I think
Square
we
feet.
we had a 10,000. Of course, that was dental and medical, and then at one point there was thoughts of having dental, medical, and then psychiatry and
Vision.
a grocery store.
Oh, that's
remember?
right. That's right.
Because that area, kind of the
Yeah.
Blythe Oldfield area, is considered a food desert.
But
so-
vision too. Vision
right.
is a big need.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, psychiatry would be a good thing. I was driving last week and I pulled over to Central Drug, that hamburger place. I guess they're closed because of COVID or whatever. And I was sitting there on the phone, and some guy walks, I guess he's a homeless guy, and he was looking in the car and just talking to me. You know, he was plumb out of his brain.
Yeah.
And I just kept talking. I thought, who can help this guy?
Yeah. There are resources. Hiawassee Mental Health is one.
How do you
and
get
then
'em to
there's
go there?
Mental Health Cooperative. Well, that is definitely
That's
a
the other
problem. You
thing.
can offer those services, and it is the compliance of for example, a schizophrenic.
Yeah.
Really has to do with what resources they have. So family, but you can imagine a lot of those families they've had a lot to deal with, and sometimes they can't take it anymore.
And sometimes families can't see it. You know what I'm saying?
Or how bad
A lot of
it
times
is.
the families just can't see it. It's
Right.
almost like they're in denial, and they won't bring it up. But now I was building over here behind the Chinese restaurant there on Mouse Creek, and the homeless will go from Harry's Food Market, and they'll walk right around. They'll go through the fence and out into the woods, and I think there's a camp back
There
there
is.
where.
Back
How do
near
you
the Home
solve
Depot.
that problem?
That's a
Wow.
huge question.
Yeah, I think it's multiple steps, but we believe certainly one of those steps is getting them better health.
Yeah.
Right.
Because many of them are in very poor health. I don't know the percentage, but I would guess, at least 15, maybe even more than that percentage of my new patients are homeless, living in cars, living in those camps and that sort of thing. So we try to.
So when they write down on the form your address, what do they put?
Homeless.
Or living in my car.
Yeah.
But Bradley County has so many great resources, and I don't know, I'm sure you've been following the story about the money that is going to Habitat for Humanity and City Fields, and there's now some going to the Caring Place and to the United Way with the Housing Coalition. And so, there is money that's coming to help solve that problem, and we've got some really good people on it that are trying to solve that problem, and we're a piece of the puzzle. I feel like that we work well collaborating with other nonprofits, and so we're often in communication with the Caring Place. I've got this person that is homeless and they need this taken care of and blah blah blah, and so we work with them, and we're just a piece of the puzzle that just helps someone move along and hopefully get housing and get employment. So
Does the hospital have to do all of that? They just, when you worked there, they came in, you saw them, you go to the cafeteria and eat lunch, right?
Not usually.
But I mean, it was available.
Right.
You could go downstairs, take the elevator, your car's in the garage. You make plenty of money, I'm certain, and you head on home and go to your golf thing.
Yeah, I don't play golf, but
And
I know what you're saying.
now this is totally
It's a change.
different.
Yeah, it's a
Now
big
you're driving
change.
down South Broad.
Yeah, it's a big change for sure. But I will tell you this: other than marrying my wife, having children, it's the best decision I've ever made, for sure. So when we were initially planning, and this was all sort of up in the air, but we talked about the fact that I would help get things started. There was some discussion about I would sort of help get things started, and then we would hire nurse practitioners and PAs, and I would move out into retirement, because I have been blessed financially and have the ability to do this, but also I was thinking I'm gonna work.
Was
for a
this your
year or
swan
so,
song?
and yeah, kind of let's just get this clinic started and go. Because the other thing is I've never done primary care. I mean, you do some in the emergency room, but so in that process, after I retired from the emergency department, I was doing all this reading and kind of getting ready for primary care, thinking in my mind, I don't know how long I'm actually going to do this. I'm just going to sort of set this medical up and then right off into the sunset. But I love it. I mean, I love it. It is amazingly rewarding.
Give me an example, a real life example.
Yeah, I will. So there was a patient from the Caring Place who walked down to care us, was extremely short of breath, to the point where they sort of walked him in the lobby and sat him down and said, "What's going on?" And we were not, it was an off day for the medical side, but he was in such bad shape, they called me and said, "Hey, he's really having a hard time breathing. I think y'all got some vital signs." And
yeah, he came to dental first, and then we called you guys and said.
So they called an ambulance because he was in that bad a shape, and said, "Look, after they get you stabilized, please come back. We'd love to take care of you." Kept him in the hospital a couple days, and sure enough, he just walks from the hospital literally into the medical side and said, "Still not doing very well. I can barely breathe." He'd take like 5 steps, and he was just huffing and puffing, and we sort of helped him onto the stretcher. Did a chest x-ray, EKG, blood work, determined that he was in congestive heart failure, right? So he had fluid all in his lungs. He was a smoker, lived in his car, actually I think at that time they'd set up in a hotel. So anyway, I talked to him about the fact that in this situation, in a normal primary care physician's office, we would immediately send you for follow-up with a cardiologist, but he didn't have insurance, so he had no financial means to do that. So got him on some medication, got him on a diuretic to help get some of the fluid out, got him on 2 blood pressure medicines because his blood pressure was completely out of control, and determined he was diabetic, so put him on some diabetes medication. Followed him up in a month, and every patient that I see, I give a sheet to that sort of talks about what are the 5 things that you can do to really improve your health, like really make you feel better day to day. And in there is stop smoking, and then there's an exercise plan, and of course eating, that sort of thing, sleep. So I see him in a month, and he walks in, and he walks right up and shakes my hand, and he's breathing normally. I just couldn't believe it. So I sat down with him, and I said, "How are you doing?" He said, I have not breathed this well in over 10 years. Like, I cannot believe how much better I feel. And I mean, I had tears in my eyes, and he was slapping me on the back like he couldn't believe how great he felt. So I'm taking this history, and and said, "So you're taking the medicine?" "Oh yeah, I'm taking the medicine you're giving me, and your blood pressure looks good." And he said, "I think it probably helps too that I followed your plan and I stopped smoking." And I honestly had not even talked to him about it. He just read that on that sheet of paper. I said, "Oh, that's amazing. Like, I'm sure that's one of the reasons you're feeling better." I was going to sort of walk you through that process over like a year.
Yeah.
He said, "Well, I'm done." I put him away, and then he started talking about how much money he was saving, right? Because he wasn't smoking. So I get done examining him and telling him, "I'm proud of you. You're doing great. Everything looks stable. I want to recheck you in a couple months." And he's walking out, and as he's walking out, he sees my medical assistant, and she says, "I can't believe how well you're walking. You're not short of breath." And he said, "Oh, I'm following Dr. Torrance's exercise plan." So I run over there and said, "Wait a minute. You're following my exercise plan?" "Yeah, it's in that sheet of paper that you gave me. I walked 4 miles on the Greenway today." I couldn't believe it, right? So, yeah, that might be a little more of an extreme example, but
He's helped you more than you've helped him.
Pete, you're exactly right. No, you're exactly right. Yeah. People and their want for health care, right? I mean, I've really been shocked by that. Really have.
You're so blessed to be in a position where you can do that.
Right. Yeah, and I recognize that. Not every, I'm just turned 52, and not every person can take, right now it's part-time, and, I recognize that for sure. But my plan, if you'd asked my wife 10 years ago, "What do you think he'll be doing at 52? It was on a sailboat somewhere. And this is way better.
All because of this trip to Nicaragua. And if that lady hadn't have said that thing, would you may still be here?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good question.
Because that was profound.
I mean, I would have hoped that God would have found a different way to smack me. And of course, the United Way's involvement in coming to me, and that started really with a relationship. I was part of that group. There were 26 people from Cleveland. I don't know if you remember this, that the year after the Boston Marathon bombing, those 26 people relayed from Cleveland, from the courthouse.
I remember that. Yeah.
To Boston. And I met a lot of people, and one of the persons that I met on that relay was Matt Ryerson. And he's become a good friend, and he had a lot to do with, my involvement in the clinic.
So you're still friends with him even though he's moved?
He has. Yeah, that was sort of a bittersweet. You have to do what's best for you and your family. And he had a lot of regret about not seeing the medical side open. But he was involved in the dental side
absolutely.
of it.
Yeah, we can't forget that is like I say, that's almost, to me, what you're doing, there is a way to do it. They can still go to the emergency room, right? But with the dental, you're providing the only thing that can happen.
That's true. I mean,
Y'all give toothpaste?
Unfortunately.
Y'all give toothbrushes away?
oh yeah, we do. Every new patient.
Are you familiar with Anthony Gray?
Yes.
That's my dentist.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, he's a great guy.
Over there off Peerless.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell him he needs to volunteer
He probably would.
for Karis.
I was sitting at home one Sunday night, this is a true story, I'd ordered Pizza Hut pizza. And I just got it. And I went, and I broke a crown. So I thought, it was 8:30. So I texted Anthony and I said, well, I guess I'll see you tomorrow. I broke a crown. And he said, I'll see you at the office in 10 minutes.
Wow.
And this is a true story. So I said, okay. So I get in my car, drive there. I get there in 12 minutes. Within 30 minutes, I put the pizza back in the microwave and was watching TV.
Really? That's some good service right there.
He just happened to be available, I guess. But I tell you what, there is, we talk about medical and dental, but there's all kinds of places that people just need help in areas that you wouldn't even realize, electric bill.
Right.
And I don't want to sound like a socialist, but a rising tide lifts all boats. We drove in here on a government road,
Right.
Yeah.
so we all got assistance.
Yeah. When you turn 65, you'll get
I'll get
universal healthcare.
assistance and expect it and want it, right?
Yeah.
So where do we stop with helping people? But I think that dental care and health care is a minimum.
It is a necessity, definitely.
Yeah, we talk about the fact that it's really nice being together and part of one organization because it's about holistic health care. Dental is absolutely tied to medical, and medical is tied to dental.
For sure.
In big ways, but also in little ways. Because of Kelly's background as a nurse, she's one of your dentist may do this, but I haven't heard of another. But they're doing blood pressures and heart rates and vital signs on their dental patients. And so, when I first started, they had this whole group of patients that they knew had high blood pressure,
Right.
that weren't getting any care.
Why is that? Why do you do that for them?
Well, because of the patient population knowing that they're not really being cared for health-wise, I guess we just realized that they're just at higher risk. And so if a patient has really high blood pressure when he walks in, and then my husband gives him a shot of lidocaine with epinephrine in it, it's going to go up even higher. And so, there's a risk there for us. I don't know why more dentists don't check your blood pressure when you come in, but I think especially for our patient population, it was just a necessity. And in that, we have found numerous patients that didn't even know they had high blood pressure. And I remember one lady, said to me, you guys saved my life because I didn't even know I had it. She had no symptoms because high blood pressure in particular, it can just kind of creep up on you, and your body just it just adjusts, and you don't really feel it. You don't feel the things that someone else might, and so it can just creep up on you, and you don't even know you have it. So we got her, before we opened medical, so got her, in with someone else, a doctor, and she got on meds, and was very grateful. Felt like
So it's almost a preventative thing, because if I went to the dentist, I'd write down no medical. I don't have medical history. All those questions they ask you are important. I always go no.
right.
But I should read them.
The
You
problem with
should.
high blood pressure is,
Yeah.
it is a silent killer, right? Like,
Yeah.
I have found several of my patients that have, the first stages of kidney failure, for example, and you'd never know that. And if you're not put on medication, you're going to spend your advanced years at a dialysis clinic Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for 2 and 3 hours at a time. It is the silent killer. And of course,
Because of high blood pressure,
right?
high blood pressure will cause kidney failure.
High blood pressure and diabetes are the top 2 causes of kidney failure.
And people just think,
Boy.
my blood pressure's always high. So that's just the way I am. It's always high. It's normal. And it's a re-education process. No, it's not normal.
I'm a hypochondriac,
You know.
so see, I'll have
So you're going to start taking yours every day.
If I hear it, I'll have it for a few days. I went to meet this guy to build a building for him one time. I met him at McDonald's, and we were going to walk over to the site, and he limped. And I don't know why he limped, but he got up and walked ahead of me. Well, I started limping.
With sympathy limping.
And he turned around and saw me limping. And it offended him, and he thought I was making fun of him. I never got the job because he thought I was.
Oh.
But I was just limping because he was limping.
Oh my!
I mean, if I hear it, if I ever had a medical dictionary, I'd have everything in there.
They say that in medical school, right? Like when you're reading about pathophysiology.
They say a medical student has to go through that phase of his life.
Yeah, when you think you have everything.
everything.
It's usually the really rare stuff. You're reading about all these bizarre leukemias. Oh, I felt a little out of breath lately, you know.
How about the blood pressure? Haven't they lowered the standard for high blood pressure now?
You know, they do change quite frequently. What I find in my clinic is that my patients are usually so far out of control because they haven't had health care oftentimes in their entire life that, but yeah, 120 over 80. If you're above 120 over 80 and you're even 130 over 85, they're calling that pre-hypertension now. And so they want you to decrease the salt in your diet, start exercising.
But a lot of times when people go to the doctor, I get nervous just going, and I can feel anxious. Isn't that my blood pressure going up?
So you can raise your blood pressure to a small degree.
What's the degree?
So
1 or 20?
No. More like 5 to 10 on the systolic, the top number. So you're right. Like when I start a patient, and I usually don't start them unless they're pretty out of control. I'll start them on
140?
medication. Yeah, above 140 over 90. I'll start them on medication, and then I will give them a piece of paper where they will go check their blood pressure once a day. I usually tell them in the morning, and write that number down. So when they come back in a month, I will know, and we've had that where, they'll sit down in the chair and they'll be 145 over 95, and I'll think, well, maybe I need to increase their, what I've got them on. And then they hand me the piece of paper and they're, 110 over 70 every day.
And it's just the anxiety of being there.
Yeah.
White coat syndrome is what they call it.
Is that what they call it?
They do.
When a guy's in a white coat, you'll believe anything he says.
Some people know, but yeah.
I don't know. There's something about a white coat. I've never heard that saying, but you're right.
Yeah.
So how did you get to Cleveland? You didn't fill that gap in.
Well, we were in Brevard, North Carolina, and my husband was a dentist there, and
Where's Brevard?
it's kind of southwest of Asheville, a small little town.
Yeah.
And but his practice just kind of fell apart there with the partner we had, and so we thought about just moving out and doing our own thing there, but we just felt like we wanted to be in a bigger city, and not Memphis or Nashville, but something that wasn't 7,000 people, because Brevard's really small. So, and then Dr. Ernie Euler, he needed an associate at the time, so we decided to move on here, and so he joined his practice and was there for 5 years before we started Caris.
How does he find a dentist from Brevard all the way to Cleveland?
Oh, they were friends. They graduated from dental school together. Yeah, we've been friends with Ernie for a long time.
So you like Cleveland?
I love it. It felt like home immediately. So we love it.
Do you have any other hobbies?
My
Or any hobbies?
children and my granddaughter.
You're a grandmother?
I am.
Well, you don't look it.
Well, thanks. I am, for sure.
I agree.
How many kids you got?
We have 4.
4? 4? God. How old are they?
Let's see. 32, 25.
32?
Yeah.
That's older than me.
Sure it is. And then, let's see, 21. and almost 16.
Golly.
Kind of spread them out.
And so the 32-year-old has a granddaughter, has a daughter.
He does, yeah.
What does he do?
He works for Volkswagen.
Does he drive all the way down there?
He does, yeah. Yeah. And then our oldest daughter is an ICU nurse at Memorial. We've got a son at Tennessee Tech, and then our almost 16-year-old, of course, is a sophomore. So
Where's he go?
Where
is she
she
go?
goes to Baylor.
Baylor. That's a
Plays
Christian.
tennis.
That's a Christian school, isn't it?
Foundationally, sure.
Maybe comparatively speaking, right?
I'd say probably a Cleveland school is a little bit more
Why is
Christian
it?
than
Why
Baylor.
is it all the colleges and schools end up going more liberal? Have you noticed that? Is it because they run out of students?
I don't have a good answer for that. You're right. I have a daughter that's at Baylor University. It was a Baptist university.
Yeah.
They're unusual though in that they are and they say we are unapologetically Christian. And it's a pretty big school, 14,000 people.
Golly.
And they like pray before class and.
So they're very conservative still.
I don't know that I would call them conservative. I don't necessarily. I know that that's sort of the way it is in America.
Yeah.
That conservatism is associated with Christianity. But if you really, I mean, I don't know. I sort of think I'm a moderate. So I think that there is liberal thinking and moderate thinking at Baylor, and of course there's probably conservative thinking as well. But they are unapologetically Christian. And my daughter, who has always been a pretty strong in her faith child, she's flourishing down there. I mean, flourishing.
When people say liberal, that's a catch-all. They don't even know what they're talking about.
Yeah,
Liberal and what, you know.
Yeah, and even, I mean, conservative, I think in the last 5 years has changed.
I believe there's more people in the middle than anybody would ever dream.
Yeah.
It'd be a good time for a third party to come out, wouldn't it? If you could get any traction.
Yeah. I'm not sure the system, the way it's set up,
It
but it would work. But
You'd never get it done.
yeah, I think that you're right. I also think, I don't know how we got off on this tangent, but I believe that those moderates are the ones that decide the election, right? I mean, they have people that are never, ever going to vote for a Democrat and people that are never, ever going to vote for a Republican.
No matter what happens.
But it's these people that are in the middle.
It's
that
people like me and you that say, I
we'll
kind of
vote for
like
the
what
best
this guy's
person.
thinking.
Yeah.
I think that's what they call libertarian.
You know, I thought at one time that I was until I really started looking at what a libertarian like truly believes. Like they don't believe in driver's licenses. They don't believe in seat belts. They don't believe in stop signs. I mean, a true libertarian doesn't believe that there should be any government involvement in any decision that you make. And I'm not.
We're just too big for government not to be involved on certain levels, like this healthcare thing.
Yeah.
I mean, we all want the government to get more involved in that.
Right.
I mean, how much would you pay a month to know everybody had health care? $50? $100?
Sure.
So if everybody did that, wouldn't that take care of everything?
I will admit that it's a lot more complex than that in regards to, one example is that, you know, in America, we have advanced testing that you can get almost on demand, right? And in a healthcare system, a universal healthcare system, oftentimes you have to jump through a tremendous number of hoops to get those advanced tests. Sometimes you don't need them, but oftentimes, even if you do, you might have to wait 6 months on your heart cath to tell you that you've got tremendous amount of blockage, or you might have to wait a year on that MRI for your back to tell you that you need to have surgery.
Right. So I think a lot of times, I think we should look at other countries and their
Yeah,
systems.
Yeah, there's
You
no
know,
perfect system.
you know, right, to see what are the pros and cons of their system, because you hear about countries that have universal health care, and like you said, you're not only waiting for those specialty services, you're waiting to see a doctor, and you're also not choosing the doctor that you want. You're assigned. And so would you want that right taken away? Probably not. So
Wonder which country has the best example of that.
I don't know.
Universal health care?
Yeah, have you ever seen Sicko, Michael Moore's movie?
I have not.
You
I've
need
had a lot of people tell me
you
that I
need to
to
watch
see
it.
that.
I don't know if it's
Yeah.
real or true or what, but it sure does. It sure does let you know what the questions are.
Yeah, I've always been told Switzerland has a very good universal health care system, but they have a lot of wealth, right?
Yeah.
That country has a lot of wealth.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that you
They
can
had Heidi.
extrapolate to.
Isn't that where Heidi was from? Remember Heidi?
Is that the sound of music?
What
That's
is that,
Austria.
Gwen?
Isn't it?
Oh,
Austria and
Austria.
Switzerland, yeah.
That's really
All I know is Heidi and the Swiss watch.
gotcha. I gotcha.
But do you think that we will ever get to where, I mean, you go back 80 years ago, what did they do? Did people live longer then?
No, they lived shorter.
Now, if you take away the infants that died, dear, and take them out of this scenario, then the ones that live to be 20 years old, do they live longer now?
No, it's still we still live longer. A lot of that is not directly medical. So, for example, water systems, cleaner water systems, antibiotics,
Penicillin?
penicillin, cardiac care. I mean, you think about it, if you're 50 years old and you had a heart attack even 25, 30 years ago, you're probably going to die in the next 2 or 3 years.
Or if
'cause
you
of the
needed
blockage that you
yeah,
have.
now they just go in and put that
Throw a
stent,
stent in
and you can
yeah.
and you can go work out in 2 days.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But you're right. My youngest daughter, when I started working at Karis, and she's always thinking about stuff, she said, "What would happen, Dad, to Karis if we got universal health care?"
Good
said,
point.
Yeah, I'd be out of a job. I mean, and then I think I said, there likely will always be some sort of need, and maybe we would do universal health. We would accept insurance, but just take people who were really needy. I'm not sure, but yeah, we would not exist the way we exist now.
And in our lifetime, we're not going to have to worry about that, are we?
I can't
It's just not
imagine
gonna
those two
happen.
political parties getting it together. When you
Or-
said that, will it ever happen? I think that it will to a degree, because we're on a collision course for the disaster. I mean, can you think of any other commodity that has increased in price more than your health insurance? I mean, it is unreal. Every year you get a bill and you're like, how can they do this? Well, they can do this because healthcare costs are just skyrocketing. So at some point, middle class America will not be able to afford health insurance. And then something's going to happen.
My deductible is like the highest you can get.
And you're still probably paying a high premium too, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, we used to have a $10,000 deductible, and when I was working in the emergency room, my wife did pre-op to get her gallbladder taken out. And she called me and she said, "Hey, they're trying to charge me $10,000." And I said, "Oh, just put it on our American
Yeah,
Express, and I'll get it taken care of. I work there; it's
Yeah.
fun." So I was actually friends with the CFO at that time, and I went up to his office and said, "Hey, can't you drop this $10,000 bill?" And there's a law that prevents hospitals from providing any sort of monetary help to their physicians. It's called the Stark Laws. And he said, if I give you 1 penny off, then we could lose our Medicare reimbursement, and the hospital would have to fold. So, yeah, I paid that $10,000 deductible.
At least you got the air miles, right?
That's right. I did. Yeah, I think we went to Italy not long after that.
There you
Yeah,
go.
you're exactly
Well,
right.
that air miles has been a big. Whoever came up with that, it was a good idea, wasn't it? Reward
amazing.
points.
Yeah. It really makes you realize how many people, though, hold a credit bill and are paying. Because, I mean, how are they flying people? Well, they're flying people because
Yeah.
people are paying that credit card bill and paying that 15%, that 18%.
And the $500 a year for the card or
Yeah,
something.
yeah.
Do people ever bring y'all credit cards, or are they just not credit card people?
Well, they try to, but we don't take credit cards.
Don't have the
fees-
machine.
Well, we did have the machine for a little while, but it was just the fees were just too high for us and for the
2%?
patients. Yeah, but but it was 3 or 4% for us, and then 2 to 3% for the patient. So we just stopped. So now we just do cash, and patients like that better than we like that better because we're not contributing to their credit card debt, if that's something, which it usually is.
The homeless people, where do they stay at night? You ever wondered that?
Yeah, there's several compounds in town. The one you're talking about out on the Greenway,
Yeah.
out near Home Depot. I'm a runner, and so
Where do you run the
see.
Greenway?
I do some.
How
run-
often?
I run 5 days a week.
How many miles?
I'm a distance runner, so right now I'm running 50 miles a week.
So that's what, 10 miles a day?
I do 2 5s, 2 10s, and a 20.
How far, in order to go 20 miles? 120?
120.
How far do you follow?
I don't do the Greenway we live in Ottawa,
Yeah.
and I have a route. If I'm going to do 20, I do it from Ottawa.
You know where it's at.
Oh yeah, because you have to drop Gatorade and that sort of thing.
You have
That long.
you know where the dogs are?
You're exactly right. Yeah, I do. I know where to stay away from, what roads not to go down. And I've had several run-ins. Luckily, I've never been bit, but been circled a couple times for sure.
Well, I ride bicycles, and when they come after you on a bike, you're clipped in, you know.
Yeah.
So you've either got to outrun them, and I had one hit my bicycle wheel, the spokes. I don't know what happened, but they're sort of vinyl spokes, so I think it's okay because I didn't hear him say anything afterwards. But boy, these people out in the county should really keep their dogs up, not for my safety, but for the dog's safety.
Yeah.
I mean, they come running off of hills into. I mean, it's just so cruel almost to let them run wild with
I agree.
cars.
Sure.
I agree.
But 20, do you follow Goggins?
Goggins?
Yeah.
I don't know who
He's
that
the
is.
long distance runner.
I don't know him.
You need to follow him on YouTube. He's great.
Okay.
Goggins.
Is he a local guy?
No, he's from
Oh.
like nationwide.
I gotcha.
Goggins.
I do know a bunch of, I've been running marathons. I have one coming up in 20 days, and this will be number 26 for me. I just do one a year, every year for the past 26 years.
Same one or just
Usually a different one. I've done a few twice. I've done Chattanooga twice, and I've done Hilton Head twice. This year we're going to Austin, Texas.
how far would it be?
Every marathon is 26.2.
Oh,
It's the distance from Marathon to Athens, Greece. So
just 26 miles.
26.2.
So how fast will you do that?
Well, back in the day, I'm about an 8-minute mile runner. Maybe at times I was a little faster than that. I think my fastest ended up being about a 7:40 mile overall. But now that I'm 52, I'm more like an 8.5 minute mile runner.
And 26, but you won't do 26 miles 8.5 minutes average, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
How long's that? You stop and
3.5 hours.
You
3
stop and
hours,
eat?
45 minutes. No, you do those little gel
Yeah.
packets along the way.
Yeah,
A
goo,
lot of Gatorade,
goo.
goo. Yeah, different companies have
The
different
goo
ones.
makes me
Cliff
nervous.
Shots. They're gross.
Yeah, make me nervous. Too much caffeine or something.
Oh, they do have
Yeah.
that have caffeine.
Especially ones with the
I
two
don't
times.
usually buy the ones
Yeah.
that have caffeine in them. But you're right, at a race, they'll usually have different, so you can sort of pick
Yeah,
Which
the
ones that you
sags
want.
they call them. Yeah, sags.
Yeah.
It's interesting. But do you ever think, you get to run and think, what if I have a heart attack here?
Yeah, not really.
If you can run and you're feeling good, are you pretty well assured you're not going to have a heart attack? Does that
Yeah, I
make
think
sense?
that's actually very unusual
Yeah.
for someone. I mean, you hear stories of people
Dropping
in races
dead.
and stuff dropping dead, but actually, and there have been medical studies. There's a group called the American Athletic Medical Association. They run the Boston Marathon, and I'm a member. And they actually did a study that showed that the percentage of people that die while running is less than the general population during that same period of time. It's a fairly uncommon thing to happen. And usually, hopefully, if you had cardiac blockage and you were on a 20-mile run, you'd get some warning like, whoa, I'm having some chest pain, or maybe I'm a little more short of breath than I would. And there are those stories, right? People who, let's say that all of a sudden I start noticing, why can I not run under a 9-minute mile? Like, what's going on? And I actually have a friend in my neighborhood who had that happen, and I told him he needs to go see a doctor. And sure enough, he had a blockage and got a stent, and he's back at it.
What causes those blockages?
Was a lot of things. Poor diet, the
So
American
donuts?
diet.
Cholesterol.
The American diet, yeah. Smoking, of course, is just terrible. I mean, it's
For
terrible.
blockages?
It is. Yeah,
But that's
absolutely.
just smoke. How would that clog up the
Well, the chemicals so there's over 100 chemicals in a cigarette.
cigarette? Huh?
And,
Is it the cigarette or the filter?
Well, that's controversial. Most physicians believe it's within the tobacco, and they actually add chemicals to the tobacco as well. But those chemicals are absorbed into your body, and they cause inflammation within the arteries, and that inflammation causes those cholesterol bodies to stick and to form in there. So it's an inflammatory cascade that is made much worse by cigarettes and your diet. So there are, fatty acids that are common in the American diet, and that's the same sort of thing where it's inflaming the coronary arteries to where blockage is setting up. And there are other things that you can't do anything about, right? So family history is very, very important.
Exercise, would that help to flush out those?
So yeah,
Or once they get clogged, will they not move?
it's not so much a flushing, although I think it is. It's multifactorial, but it is about decreasing inflammation. And so if you exercise, you're not only strengthening your heart muscle, but your overall inflammation. The exercise is actually decreasing the inflammation within the arteries around the heart.
When you run, are you just out of breath and you're giving it your all and you're going to win and you're going to beat that guy and you're going to catch up and are you really putting it in?
Not in distance running. If you think about it, if you're
Well,
running
the last
26
mile?
miles, if you're running a marathon, the last 6 miles are usually rough, quite rough, and
and
you're
you
giving
start-
it everything that you can. But I'm not. My times are not competitive when you start talking about, Ethiopia, Kenya. I'm racing myself, right? So even this marathon, I'll have sort of a time that I want to beat, and go.
But
from
if you
there.
saw the guy ahead of you, so you're saying in this marathon, you're probably not going to win. You're doing it for personal reasons, and you're not going to come in last, but you're probably not going to come in. But if you saw that you might can catch that guy ahead of you, are you going to do it?
Gonna do it. Yeah, absolutely. You do. If you're running a certain pace, you oftentimes sort of conglomerate in with a lot of the same kind of people, and so you sort of watch. Another thing that's really common for people who just start distance running is they're so excited that first half that you're just getting, and that I've seen that so many times where I get past 100 times in the first 13 miles, and then I'll pass 150 people in the second half because they have gone out way too fast.
Yeah, I was riding on this one that they used to have this thing in Cleveland, that 64-mile ride for Habitat, and Dr. Visor was riding. You know, I know Dr.
Oh, yeah.
And so we weren't competing, but we were trying to keep up with each other. So we stopped at a SAG, and he said, "I'll be with you in a minute. I'm gonna step in here to the porta toilet." I said, "Okay." And I took off. And he thought he was looking for me, and I was, you know, you give 2 minutes down the road faster than somebody else. You can't catch that person. He never will forget that.
He's a good guy.
But I just acted. I said, "Well, I look for you," and I couldn't see.
He's a really good guy. That practice with Dr. Bird, they have started seeing, you know, that's one of the hard things that we have at Caris is when you need to see a specialist.
That's right.
Right. And so Cleveland is blessed to have physicians, and, you know, because of my work in the emergency room, I worked with Dr. Visor and Dr. Bird and know them personally. And so, you know, they'll take a call for me, and I'll tell them, look, this guy has no ability to pay. You know, can you at least see him once? And Dr. Visor has done that already for us.
That's something y'all get into that we haven't even touched on. Let me tell you about Gobbles Automotive. They're on North Lee Highway, just past Captain D's. They're family owned, they're family operated. My whole family uses it. They've stood the test of time. They will do you a good job. Give them a try. They're no problem. What do y'all not do in dentistry?
We don't do implants yet, but
Was that where
implants.
the porcelain teeth?
You know, it's just a permanent solution to a missing tooth. So
Okay.
it's, you know, looks
It's
almost
that
like
thing
a
I broke
screw
that Anthony
screws
fixed.
into your jawbone.
So you don't do those?
We don't do those.
What about root canals?
We do those. Yes, crowns, partial dentures. We do all that. And then we do partner with, for oral surgery, we do have the ability to refer just a couple patients a month to the local oral surgeon that's agreed to help us out or help our patients out.
Does he have like a limit that he'll,
Yeah.
obviously he's got to
Right.
set some kind of a
Right,
thing.
right. But talking about any specialty referral care, we're working with the health department and with Tenova to help bring Project Access to Bradley County. And do you know what that is? So it's like another nonprofit that's national, and they coordinate specialty care for our same patient population. So like if Dr. Torrence needs to refer someone to a cardiologist,
Yeah.
then we say, hey, Project Access, this is the patient we're giving to you, and he needs a cardiologist. And so they have a list of doctors that have agreed to donate their services, and they coordinate that
Maybe
whole
they keep up
procedure.
with, we've sent that doctor 5 this month. Let's get, well, that's an ingenious idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
Who come up with that idea?
Oh, gosh, who did?
We've learned about that. It was a
Yeah.
physician
Yeah.
in, I want to say North Carolina somewhere,
I feel
maybe
like it's that
Asheville.
as well. Yeah.
But the basics are that, and I forget the statistic, but it's like over 90% of physicians are willing to do some amount
Some.
of charitable care, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But the problem is that, you know, if you, for example, if the hospital doesn't agree to do surgery, for example, and you send somebody with gallbladder disease to a surgeon, they can't really do anything unless the hospital agrees. So that's where Project Access comes in. They get the hospital on board, they get the physician or the surgeon on board, and they know sort of how many patients this general surgeon will take and this, and they try their best not to abuse that position. And then the hospital is on board, and Tenova has already agreed. And so really from a physician standpoint, where Project Access shines is that they coordinate all that care. Because what was happening was these, let's say a general surgeon sees somebody with gallbladder issues, they would use their staff to call the hospital. Hey, call the anesthesiologist. Would he or she be able to do it for free? Would the hospital give them a
never
discounted
end.
rate?
Right.
But with
It's
Project
a lot of
Access, they
work.
literally say, we're sending you to this surgeon, and then the surgeon says, hey, they need to have their gallbladder out. Project Access calls the anesthesia group, calls the hospital, gets it all set
So
up.
no, we've wore this guy out too much. We need to ease up and go to this one.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, that was a good idea.
The other
It's
great
coming.
part about it is, and at least I didn't think about this, I can't say about Kelly, but there's a reverse of that, right? So let's say somebody walks into a general surgeon's office and maybe they have an abscess, right, that can be opened in the office. And then they say, I've had this infection because I'm a diabetic and I don't have any insulin. Well, that general surgeon can take care of that abscess, can call Project Access, and then Project Access will send that patient to me to be their primary care physician. So there's also sort of a reversal of role there too.
Is that how y'all do it? You could call that project?
Well, Project Access is not here yet. It's coming this year, hopefully this quarter. But
Wouldn't it just be an online thing?
no, that they will talk to each patient, so they'll have to go through their own eligibility criteria.
Where will they be located?
Probably somewhere, maybe in the health department, maybe at Tenova. All those details are not worked out yet, but we just want to, be like the home, like the primary care home for our patient population, and then Project Access is going to help us with the specialty care.
With dentistry and medical.
Well, they won't help with dentistry. They don't really have oral surgeons on board there, so we keep doing that ourselves. And
They would like to.
coordinating.
That's
I would
a
like
job
to.
in itself, isn't it?
It can be, yeah, it can be. But so my husband has been doing dentistry for 25 years now, so he's pretty good at it.
Is he fast?
He is fast. He's very good and quick. Yeah, he needs to be because I keep him very busy.
Does he have any quirks?
No, quirks? You think he does?
Everybody has quirks.
Quirks? I wouldn't say so. I'll be good.
What time do y'all open?
We open at 8, and then we see our first patient at 8:30.
What's the 30 minutes for?
We meet in the morning, we discuss the schedule, and then we pray before
Drink coffee?
every day. I'm the only one that really drinks coffee routinely.
Where do you get it at?
My home,
You don't get it at Starbucks?
no, that's just way too much a waste of time right there.
Boy, they are parked out in the road.
Yeah,
I drive that way, right, through Harrison Pike.
It's
coming
that
to
way.
Karis, and you have to be careful because the cars are out in the
pull
road
out.
for burnt coffee.
And the thing is about it is, I've gotten addicted to their coffee. It's really good. If you drink it about 3 times, you're stuck.
you need to.
We have a differing opinion. I'm a coffee snob. I roast my own coffee beans at home. I have a coffee roaster at home.
Yeah, I've drunk out of those before.
Have you?
How many Starbucks Pike roast coffees have you had?
Yeah, at least 4 or 5 because of you get to an airport or something,
Yeah.
and yeah.
It's
So,
really good, isn't it?
I don't think so. I think they burn their coffee beans.
But I think I sort of like a Lassiter's coffee.
Okay, I have not ever had last.
It has a slight burnt taste too,
Okay.
and
I
I
tell you-
sort of like that.
In Cleveland,
Bond Life is really
Bond
good.
Life.
Yeah.
yeah, I like Bond Life.
To me, that's that Puerto Rican taste and a little bit of a tart taste or something.
So that would usually be a coffee bean that's low in the roast profile, right? So
Yeah.
a coffee bean will. Well, I'm just getting way off. A coffee bean will crack twice as
Yeah.
you're heating it, and so if it's too tart, that means that it's only just past the first crack, and then it will have a very tart.
Well, why do they
taste.
want to serve that? Do some people like
I think
that?
some people like that. Yeah, my wife tends to like a lighter roasted coffee.
So that's the lighter roast.
It is.
So
yeah.
when I say to me Starbucks,
Very dark.
but see, to me it doesn't really taste that dark.
Yeah. It does to me, but that's one of the reasons is because this is, of course, an opinion. But when you're making millions of pounds, or you're roasting millions of pounds of coffee beans, you have to catch that bean between that first and second crack. And every batch, or every, from the tree, from the bush, there's a different timing. You can't just set a timer and know, it's going to be halfway between. You have to be there listening, smelling, looking at the bean. There's an art to it.
What kind do you have at your house?
So I order, I guess I can say this, I order from a company called Sweet Maria's. I think they're out of California. And you talk about coffee geeks. These people travel all over the world. They primarily buy organic coffees from small farms, and they import, pounds and pounds of coffee from all different regions. And that's one of the things I like about roasting my own coffee is that I can, have Guatemalan coffee one day, and I can have coffee from Tanzania the next. Might have coffee from Indonesia the next day.
You ever put a little salt in there when you?
I don't. I don't add
What does
any.
that do?
It takes the bitterness out.
You wouldn't have to do that if you didn't drink Starbucks.
Well, Starbucks is, but that Bond Life, there it is. That coffee, I don't know, but your wife likes it.
She does, yeah.
Inman Street's good too.
Where?
Inman Street Coffee, where the Salvation Army is.
Oh, well, I didn't like their coffee.
No.
Lassiter's, Starbucks. But now, if you want to go for the atmosphere, Ocoee Coffee, North
I have
Ocoee.
heard
That's
good too.
the absolute best place to go.
I tell you who else though. They just opened Vibes, right across from
Yeah,
First Baptist.
the bar. That's the Jordan barbecue guy.
Yeah, he brought us a sample of it, and it was really good.
What
really
is it
good.
about coffee that's just so good?
It's a gift from God. It really is. I really do see it.
I mean,
that way.
whoever figured that out? You
I
think
know,
about
no
it.
kidding.
I mean,
Taking
hey,
this
let's
bean,
boil.
And it's a fruit, right? It's a red.
Yeah.
You got to get the
Yeah.
pulp off of it.
Is
get
it a
the
lagoon?
seed. Wow. I should know the answer to
Legume
that.
or a bean.
Like a pinto bean is a lagoon.
I think it might be because it's it's a bivalve. There's two pieces.
Yeah.
To that.
That makes it a lagoon,
Unless you have
right?
there's a type of coffee that's called pea berry that's not separated.
What about postum? Postum. That's what the Seventh-day Adventist drink instead of coffee.
I've never had postum.
Never had that.
And do you ever watch Gunsmoke?
Boy, way back in the day.
You ever notice they'd say, if Matt was at the jail, they had coffee. But if he had to go out and he ended up staying in a cabin somewhere, he'd say, do you have any coffee? And they'd say, no, all I've got is chickpea.
Chicory.
Chicory.
It's a root.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you ever had
It
it?
was like I got some in here because this friend of mine comes in every Sunday morning.
From New Orleans, I bet.
And it's George McCoy, the lawyer.
Oh, yeah.
And he always drinks chicory.
Wow. It's pretty,
It's like
It's
it's like
intense.
drinking grass.
yeah.
It must have been a poor man's coffee at the time.
I think you're right.
Because they'd always say on Gunsmoke, all I have is chicory. Because it was.
Yeah.
But anyway, Starbucks, they're backed up. It's dangerous pulling in there.
Yeah, it is. I tell people when we're talking about coffee and then they're Starbucks people, I say, if you have burnt toast every day and that's all you know, after 3 months, you're going to think that burnt toast tastes good.
Exactly.
But it's burnt toast. And to
People-
get a piece of toast, that perfect brown in between, you got to be careful, right? You got to be over there watching it, knowing what's
So
going
you're
on.
saying familiarity is as important, has a lot, familiarity trumps what you would like?
Yeah, I think that your body gets used to that. And I think that people who like dark coffee, it is because they it's almost like that sort of, whoa, that waking up aspect of it, because it's so dark and burned. But it's.
Do you think it makes people feel more at home, like like some people would? I prefer toast that comes out of a toaster. It comes up.
Right.
But some other people might like to have it in the oven. But I'm used to eating it out of a toaster.
I think that's part
So I
of it.
mean, so getting familiar might be more of a thing than the taste,
Sure.
It's just all in what you're used to.
Yeah.
or what you get used
You're
to.
used to it, so you prefer it.
Yeah,
And they got you with that $2.50 a cup.
302. 302.
I pay
Wow.
$4 for a pound.
A pound.
$4 with shipping.
You
It's
know what
all
else
about
is
$4.
funny? This is a weird thing, but I've got an app on my phone and I push the buttons, and when I pull out of my driveway, I do it, so that by the time I get there, everybody's standing there waiting, and I walk in like a rock star, like grab mine. It's almost. I think they do that by design.
I know one
Of
thing.
course.
After, if anybody from that company's watching this interview, I'm not getting a gift card.
Well, I've got 2 gift cards for Christmas, and I can't use them because I'm so used to using that app.
You can't
Oh.
add the gift card into the app? I bet
You know,
you
you can. You can.
Oh, can you?
You can.
I bet you can.
I have the app too. Yeah.
What do you
drink,
do?
I drink Starbucks, but I don't drink their coffee. I drink their frou-frou drinks. If I'm going to go to Starbucks,
Oh, I
it's for,
can't stand those.
it's for something else, kind of frou-frou. Yeah. So I have the app, and you can add a gift card to it.
You know, there's a lot of homeless people in Inman that sit in front of there and use that charger outlet on the front porch.
Starbucks?
Yeah, Saturday morning, I went by there and they were closed because they can't get help. And the only people there was the homeless on the front porch charging their phones.
Starbucks was closed on a Saturday morning.
Wow.
Wow. That's shocking.
And this morning.
Yeah, my
I
wife
went this morning.
My wife's out of town, and Friday night I ordered pizza from Papa John's. Put all my stuff in. 2.5 hours delivery.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Did you get from Papa John's next to you in the Star Plaza?
Yeah. No. We live in Ohlsson.
Oh, that's right.
So it came from Highway 50.
What part of Ottawa?
It's really more Harrison, so it is considered Ohlsson, though. It's off Snow Hill Road.
Oh, yeah.
You know where?
58 Highway and
Over in that direction. Yeah.
up on the hill.
There's a hill.
The big subdivision, I guess.
No. It's I live in Royal Harbor.
Oh.
So it's where Wolf Teaver comes off the Tennessee River back in there. When Vanessa and I first came back to the area, I took a job at Memorial. She was pregnant. I never worked a day there because about a month before I was supposed to start, I got a call from the guy who was in charge of the group, the ER group, that the hospital had fired the entire group. And in my contract, it said, we can't offer you a job if we don't have a contract. So it wasn't because I did anything, but they ended up losing the contract. So my wife was 7-8 months pregnant, and I did not have a job. And somehow Jerry Devane heard that I didn't have a job and called me and said, "Why don't you come work for me?" And initially, honestly, I thought, Cleveland's so small. I thought I was big stuff, trained in emergency medicine, and that's a busy emergency department. It gave me all the challenge that I needed.
Did you go to Grumpy's when you were growing up?
Worked there, yeah. My dad and JT Lemons are the owners and still are. Of course, Grumpy's is not there anymore. But
did you ever go into the Scooby-Doo bus? They sit out in the field.
I don't think so.
There was a bus out in the field down below it that was painted like Scooby-Doo's bus.
Yeah, I think that might have been when I was. So if you think about it, I mean, I was there. That company started in 1977. My dad started it with JT and 2 other guys that left. But I was very involved in rafting and was there from 1977. But when I went to college and then medical school and then residency, that's a 11-year period that I was gone. And I think that Scooby-Doo bus was when I was gone.
Have you ever heard of that, though?
Yeah, now that you say that,
Yeah.
I think it was a Raft Guides bus.
I think so.
Yeah. They're
Sounds
an
like
unusual
it.
group.
Sounds like it should
yeah,
be.
They're
an
an unusual.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Well, what do you think is Karis's? Where were y'all located before you? Because y'all recently.
Well, we recently opened medical, but we've been
But
in
I
our
mean-
dental building since 2015.
Were you? You weren't there nowhere prior to that, right?
Well, we were doing those extraction-only clinics like one day a month at the health department because they have a dental office there and they treat children. And they were not there on Fridays. And so when Jim was not working on a Friday, he would volunteer and we would
So that-
coordinate a clinic there.
So the health department has.
They have a dental facility. It's very nice, but they only treat children and they also have difficulty keeping a dentist there. So.
Did you ever watch Northern Exposure?
No, I didn't.
That is one of my favorite shows.
That's one of my
I
absolute
love that show.
favorite.
I bet I've seen-
what
If
about
you've
that
not
story
watched,
made you think
if
of that?
you've not watched
Because-
Northern Exposure, you've done yourself a great injustice. Am I right?
You're right. The similarity is that it's a very remote community that needed a physician, and he traded his
Flashman.
Dr. Joel Fleischman
Yeah.
traded. They paid for his medical school, and he got flown.
Okay.
He thought he would. First episode, he thought he was going to Anchorage.
He thought he was going to Anchorage.
So he lands in Anchorage, and they meet him there and say, "No, it's changed. You're going to
Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Sicily.
Sicily." That's right, Sicily.
Is that right,
It was named-
Sicily?
It was named after
Yeah.
a woman. That was another episode. Two women.
Two women. That's
yeah,
right. And they were
yeah.
lit, and they were.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. So, the greatest thing about that show to me, the writing, how they got into the characters,
Oh, and
you
they-
really knew every character, and there were some unusual
And they
people.
stayed with their character. The only thing I didn't like, they never really said what happened to Joel. Because
Right.
he went to that island, I guess,
Yeah,
and he
yeah.
was playing golf.
Yeah.
And I always thought that they would write that woman and him getting together.
It wasn't the best ending.
It was.
You're right.
It was not a
Yeah,
very good
yeah,
ending.
yeah.
But up to that, it was.
I wonder if it's on Netflix.
I was
or
about to say, I wonder
something.
where
Oh,
I
I
could
got it
find
from
it.
McKay's.
On DVD or something.
Yeah, I got the whole
Yeah.
series.
Yeah.
You ever go to McKay's?
Mm-hmm.
Boy, that place is busier
Hopping.
than Starbucks.
Often.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We took them when my father-in-law, who had Star Plaza and he had
Yeah.
that office in there.
Yeah.
He had so many books. It was unbelievable. To give you some idea, I think I filled my Toyota Tundra 3 times with boxes of books.
Did you take them to McKay's?
Took them to McKay's.
I bet you
Yeah.
still have a credit.
Honestly, so many of them they don't really like finance books too much, and so many of them were finance oriented that we didn't do very well. Not that we needed to,
Yeah.
but we didn't do all
But
that well
it makes you
financially.
feel like that you're not throwing them away.
Exactly. Yeah.
I had a friend of mine died here 6 months ago, and I let him live in one of my apartments. Well, he died, and family came and got all the stuff they wanted, and the only thing they had was several boxes of books. So I took them all down there and left $88
For all that.
for all that.
Yeah.
But it was
Yeah.
in
I
because
think we
got
did
it.
worse than that. I think we did 60.
It was in trade.
Yeah.
So, you get to trade for.
Right.
So I've
Get-
still
get
got
some.
that ticket that says. Do you know they only give you 5 days to go back and redeem that
Mm-hmm.
card? And that. So I went in there
Oh,
because
wow,
I
I
get to
didn't know that.
Chattanooga twice a month,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to really have time to go.
Right.
And so they said that it was longer than 5 days. and they went and talked to the manager and gave me my credit.
Yeah, it's hard when you don't live there to get there.
Yeah, and if you're busy, you don't need to go there because it's such a big line, and they're very COVID. There for a while, you had to stay in the parking lot and drive to the back of the building,
Oh, wow.
and they would meet you at the back of the building.
Huh.
Have y'all had issues with COVID?
Yes.
Still? Still?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I was wondering when you were going to ask about that.
Every business.
Everybody has. I haven't had it yet.
Yeah.
Knock on wood.
Really? Yeah.
That's
Unusual.
amazing.
It's amazing.
With this variant specifically, that's amazing.
I haven't.
I haven't. I mean, you know, the vaccine is clearly protecting people from hospitalization and death. But with this variant, I have a ton of friends. I'm pretty sure I had it as well. My wife's test was sort of equivocal, but we were both sick 6 weeks ago. But I have tons of friends that were vaccinated and got it. And they're fine, you know, they're
Sure,
sick
yeah.
for a week or so. But yeah, we have staff that have had it, and it's tough. Tough on businesses.
Yeah.
I was somewhere about 3 weeks ago, and they was taking a picture, and this girl came up, took a picture, and she called me 3 hours later and said, "Oh, I got COVID."
3 hours later.
3 hours later,
Oh.
and
That's
I
so
didn't.
much.
I never.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I wonder if her test wasn't bad. You know, you wonder
Yeah.
about that too.
Yeah.
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 You
the
hear about
test.
more false negatives than false positives,
you
but I'm
do.
sure
Yeah.
it
If
happens.
If it's positive, it's usually positive.
Yeah.
But,
Where do y'all else do you get your funding?
Well, private donors, like I said, so they can go to the website at carishealth.org and donate there. And we're needing to rely more on private donors, just because we're expanding, like I said. So, and the United Way is still funding us. The George R. Johnson Foundation, Family Foundation, they gave some money, and then the Community Foundation also really did a big part in launching the medical part. We get grants from the state. I'm looking at grants all the time. That's a lot of what I do is apply and write grant proposals. It's
Doesn't that take a
not
lot
the
of
best
time
part.
writing those?
It does. It does. Yeah.
A
she
grant.
is really good at it. I mean, shockingly good at it.
No.
How thick are those grants? Like,
It just depends. It depends on the grant. So for the state, it's pretty
I mean, you'll
big.
fill out this paperwork, 20 pages, trying to get $9,000 or something. Right?
Sometimes, yeah.
sometimes
And then
less.
once you get it too, then you have to collect data that they want every quarter and report on how you use the money.
In other words, it's not
and-
free. They're wanting some.
Well, yeah, and I can understand that. They're giving you a significant amount of money, and they need to know that you spent it on what you said you were going to spend it on, and what are you doing. You know, so, I mean, it makes sense, but it does take time. It takes a lot of manpower and time to.
And you do all that?
I do, yeah. I have a great staff though that helps with the data collection. And,
How many is there?
at dental we have 8, and at medical we have 3.
So with the 8 people, you're writing and collecting and calling
Yeah.
project assistants. What'd you call it?
Oh, Project Access.
Project
Not yet.
Access.
Not yet. So that's on the dental
that's right.
side, and so we're running a dental office on the dental side, and then I'm in my spare time trying to apply for grants and do all the reports and all that kind of good stuff. And then on the medical side, they're just really getting going, seeing patients on Mondays and Wednesdays, and then the office manager and our medical assistant are following up with patients on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and they're, following up on labs. And
You're administrator.
I am, I
Yes,
guess. Yeah, it's not ever something I dreamed I would be, but I am. So.
This just been 8 years, right?
Yeah. Well, I guess, full time about 6 to 7. Yeah.
So people can donate, just like go to the website.
Yeah, and we'd love for them to come by too and see.
Maybe an
our
open house.
facilities. Yeah, we've had several. We're looking at maybe doing a fundraising event this year. So
Such as
we'll
what?
have that out. Well, like a gala or some type of maybe a 5K or something like that. You know, different ideas. We haven't decided yet. My board
Have a
will have to
30K and
decide.
nobody will show up.
Maybe we need a 1K.
There you go. But you know, what we have found is that if people come and see the medical clinic, excuse me,
Yeah.
if they come and see the medical clinic, see what we're doing, let us tour them through, hear some of these stories, they usually want to give. They believe in what we do.
Right.
Yeah, and what would your average donation be from the general public?
From the general public?
Yeah.
I would say we have some great donors that give like $50 a month, and that helps us, you know, just cover costs as usual. And then we have people that just want to give once a year, and that's about $1,500 a year. So.
And you
that's
got
in
to keep
general.
up with all that too.
Well, sure.
Can that foundation where that Keith Barrett's wife?
Right. That's the community
Yeah.
foundation.
Can they assist so much, like on a regular basis?
Well, that'd be something to ask Kathy.
Because
we would
this
love
is
for that,
obviously
but-
a good cause.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and like I said, they helped us launch the medical clinic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got a
Gave
big
quite a bit of money
donation
for
from
that. So, you know, we're real thankful for that. We just you have to reapply for those things every year. So it's just, and they may not always want to fund you every year, and then they might give again the next year. So the United Way has been very consistent since we began, and probably will be with the Health Endowment Fund from the sale of Bradley Memorial. So that was for healthcare, and obviously
Yeah, that's what it
we
was
fit
for.
that we fit that bill. So
How much money is left on that?
from the Health Endowment
Yeah.
Fund, I have no idea.
It's
I think-
public
I think it's
information.
fine.
That's a Gary Davis question, right?
It's a lot.
Like 90 million or something?
No,
40 million?
I want to say 20-ish. They have been great stewards of that money. I used to serve on the board of the United Way, and these are, I'm sure there are people out there that are listening that are part of the United Way.
Yeah.
But in general, they give over $1 million a year out to different organizations that meet the criteria
Yeah.
of the endowment fund. And despite the fact that they have done that, their principal has grown from the sale. So, you know, when the hospital sold, the county got half that money. That money's gone.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't say the United Way got it, but the Health Endowment Fund got the money. The United Way is the steward of that money. And not only is that money not gone, it has grown. I think it's around double what they initially got. And so we're proud and happy to be a part of that. And you're right, we feel like that we're a perfect
Yeah.
steward for what that money was meant for. Of course, my grandfather was administrator there for 30 years at Bradley Memorial Hospital, so it's kind of a strange tie-in there with
Yeah.
me feeling like that I have a duty to the community in that way as well, that money should be spent to provide health care for
It's
those
sort of
that
in your
can't get
blood,
health
isn't it?
care. It is, yeah, it really is.
In other words, if you were going to write a story, this would be in the story, right?
It would. It'd be a huge part of the story.
When did he start being the administrator there?
He was there from 55 to 85.
Golly.
He was the second administrator. I think the hospital started, I want to say 50, 51.
Alan
somewhere in
Jones
there.
was the first baby born,
Right.
right? You ever heard that?
I have heard that from his mouth. I have, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I was born there. Yourself?
I was born there, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. She wasn't.
No, I was born in Knoxville.
When was you born? About 85?
You have to remember, I have a grandchild. Remember,
Oh, that's
so
right, yeah.
I was born in '69, so.
We're essentially the
52.
same age. She's just, she hasn't had as much fun as I have.
What was your background in school?
Well, I was a nurse,
I mean, prior to that, was you
like.
tennis star or track star or anything?
Gosh, no. I did play a little bit of tennis and soccer, but I I was really a good student. Like I was, you know, one of the top people in my class.
Valedictorian?
No, not quite. Not quite. But
Was it a
just
big
really
college,
focused
big
on
high
that.
school?
It was a big high school. Yeah, Craigmont in Memphis.
2,000 students?
I think it was about 1,200 then. So it was pretty big. But and I took Spanish in that high school, and that has been a huge benefit to me.
Did you learn it after you was out in high school, or did you have to practice it?
I learned it in high school. My teacher, Senorita Costa, she would not let us speak English in the classroom, and I took 4 years. And now, I never used it,
Great.
but now I use it almost every day at work.
¿Cómo está usted?
Bien, y tú? So that it's a huge benefit at work. We have a lot of Hispanic patients, so I've heard. I tell people they're like, oh, you're fluent. No, I'm fluent in dental office Spanish.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to become a little fluent in medical office Spanish, but it's a lot harder because there's a lot more body parts than the mouth and the teeth.
Yeah. Do you ever have need a translator? You don't need a translator then, do you?
Yes, we do, because I need to be doing other things. But yeah, we do have a couple of volunteers that translate or interpret for us.
Does your office just got stuff everywhere?
No, we're very neat.
I mean, your personal office there, where you're having to write these grants and.
No. I can't function like that. I gotta be organized.
My office.
I have the floor
everywhere.
system.
And my
the floor
husband's
system.
office is a little Post-its everywhere, but no.
What about? Do you have any Cleveland State student nurses that can come and shadow and do that sort of
They
stuff?
they can, and we often have dental assistant students that come and shadow. In fact, we've got one coming tomorrow or Tuesday. But we haven't started that a lot in medical because we want to get up and running and get our processes going and know what we're doing before we start having people volunteer and come in, besides interpreters. I mean, it's important when you volunteer somewhere that things are running smoothly. So we just want to get that up and polished before we get someone else in there. But we will. We definitely would love to partner with Lee University School of Nursing and Chat State and Cleveland State.
Yeah, it looks like Lee University would be right there.
Yeah.
They could walk. Mm-hmm. When people donate, do you send them a thing at the end of the year for their taxes?
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Is that 100% deductible now, or how does that go?
I have no idea. You can
That's
talk to your CPA
I think it's
about
100%, right?
I'm not an accountant, that's for sure.
I think up to a certain amount. Then I think it changes. I just read that the other day, and I was shocked at how low the total was.
Yeah, something. It's not very high at all.
But you know what we find, or what I've been shocked by the donations in the private community, is that they're not as concerned about the tax implications. They find something that they want to help, and they believe in that. And like I said, getting a tour and seeing it in motion.
I
really
think that's
helps
a
people.
big thing.
It is.
It is. Yeah. You can find Kelly was saying the website, which by the way, it's Karis with a K, K-A-R-I-S, health.org. And that'll take you to our website with.
CarisHealth.org is where you can go to donate to this good cause.
Right. And then if you're a patient, you can go and see the process for becoming a patient there too.
Good luck. You're doing a great thing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Good to meet you.
Thanks
I've
for
heard it.
having us.
I appreciate y'all coming.